Okay, welcome back. We're talking about the course requirements and how participation is made up of two things we haven't talked about yet. So here is how the grades get distributed. There's 2 exams at 10 points apiece, 6 quizzes, 6 assignments, one term project is huge. 15%. That's 1.5 letter grades. Yeah, that's serious stuff. And then participation is 5%. So here's the schedule that we're going to follow. Don't bother to read this thing. The real takeaway behind this is here's all the things that we're going to do. Like for the first week, we're going to install Windows 10. We're going to look at alternate data streams, and we're going to do a demo with a close button. And what's due is the readiness exam. It's kind of a survey, rather. A syllabus exam and a journal. So the real takeaway is the things that are due is usually a quiz or assignment, quiz or assignment, quiz or assignment, plus a journal. Okay, so how much work is this going to be outside of watching the videos? Yeah, probably about 1 to 2 hours per week. Very fast pace, about 1 chapter to cover and tons of things to do. A quiz and assignment plus a journal is due every Sunday at midnight, 11:59. Okay, so the weekly routine. Assignment or quiz plus a journal is due Sunday at midnight. Now, following Monday, I'm going to grade your stuff and release the new batch of videos, probably around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That gives me enough time to grade everything. And then the previous lecture notes are released. So I give you my lecture notes, but not during the week. It's the week after. Okay? Got it. All right. So exams and quizzes. So the midterm and the final obviously conducted at home, right? So it's open book, open notes, open everything. 25 questions, an hour and 15 minutes. I mentioned it's going to be a separate review session to go over all the topics. Okay. Take-home quizzes, same thing. Lecture notes. Okay, look, I don't use the store-bought version of the quizzes, like from the manufacturer or the book's author. I use my lecture notes. So here's how it works. Comes time for me to write a quiz. I go look at my notes. I go, ooh, that would make a dang good question. Oh, wait, here's another. I don't even look at the book at all when I'm writing quiz questions, okay? So if I'm using my lecture notes to write the quizzes, don't you think perhaps it'd be a good idea for you to be looking at those very same lecture notes during the quiz? Man, that might be a good idea. I'm trying to give you some good advice here. Assignment. So reading comprehensive. I hate to actually have to talk about this, but occasionally it's I'll say, okay, do the following 4 things, and somebody will turn in an assignment and say, okay, here's the 3 things you asked for, and I'm going, no, I asked for 4. Oh, I didn't see that. Like, man, if there's a word in that assignment, it's probably there because I wanted it there. Okay, just telling you, read it all. Typically, you're going to be submitting a Word document with just cut and paste screenshots. That's probably all it's going to be. I have what's called a standard file naming convention, and this is in itself, this is a test on whether or not you can read and follow instructions. Yeah. Because this is not like the only time you're going to see this. At the bottom of every single assignment, it reminds you how I want this thing formatted in Canvas. It goes like this: CIS4348, space, whatever years you're turning in, assignment 2, space, last name dot first name. There's 2 and exactly 2 spaces. I'm not asking you to remember that. I'm asking you just to read and follow instructions. I'll be able to tell on the first day, first assignment, if you can read and follow instructions. By the way, don't you think reading and following instructions is a critical skill for practically any job you might have? I'm thinking so. Obviously, everything is submitted in Canvas, for God's sake. There's no paper. And if you submit an assignment, not a quiz, but if you send an assignment, I can scribble on it and give it back to you, and you're allowed to resubmit it a second or third or fourth time. You just keep going. All right. So paraphrasing and plagiarism. Again, I wish we didn't have to talk about this. And it's very rare now to have a student that gets this far in their academic career and not know how to do plagiarism. So we have an automatic plagiarism checking tool called, and it produces a thing called a similarity score. So the rules for plagiarism are not at all complicated. There's really just one rule, really. It's don't use other people's words. That's it. Okay? And unless you're doing a direct quote, and we're not doing that on anything in this class, you can't just go to some source, grab a sentence, and paste it in your document. That's plagiarism. What you're supposed to do is read their stuff and go, what they meant is, and you put it in your words. Okay? That's what they meant. All right. In supplemental materials section in Canvas, there's a document called 10 Types of Plagiarism. It might be handy. So here's kind of a generic grading rubric, and the 20% is, can you read and follow instructions? Yeah. 35% is, did you learn what it is you're supposed to learn? Because these writing assignments, well, in this case, cut and paste screenshot assignments, aren't really about, how perfect a Word document you can produce. It's about, did you learn anything? Did it work? That, believe it or not, that's important, but not as important as learning. For example, if you having trouble, I'm using Wireshark as an example. You can't quite get Wireshark to work, but you actually learned how to do it. There was just some technical difficulty going on. Okay, I can understand that. Best practices, there's always 15 ways to do something. And then speller, grammar, and formatting. This is not an English class. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to submit a journal once a week. And the purpose for the journal is to see if you're actually watching the videos. I'll say that again. The purpose for the journal is to see if you're actually watching and paying attention to the lecture videos. I'm going to ask you a question in the journal that perhaps has nothing to do with the course material at all. It might be, what color shirt am I wearing? Okay, do you understand what I'm talking about? And get this concept, to me, is very simple, but a lot of people have trouble with it. If I said in lecture that 2 plus 2 is equal to 3, and then I turned right around and asked you, what did I say 2 plus 2 is? Okay, if you said 4, you got it wrong. Because I didn't ask, what is 2 plus 2? I asked, what did I say 2 plus 2 is? Okay? All right, you got it? All right. So there's 3 sections. Screenshots, basically just, following along. Did you install this software? Did you run this? And then the lecture trivia question is going to be 4 questions that basically say, have you been paying attention? And then a survey about, hey, how difficult is this course and how many hours are you spending and that kind of stuff. Journals are a significant portion of your 85% of your participation score. Okay, now here's how it should work. In a perfect world, you would grab the actual journal and the 4 questions and read the 4 questions and have that handy while you're watching the videos. Okay, you might have an hour's worth of video to watch, but it's only 4 questions. Typically, even in the same order as they appear in the videos. And so you're watching the videos, you go, wait, that's question number 2. So you scribble your note out. I do not want you to watch the videos, and then after you're done, you bring out the journal and go, oh, heck, I don't remember that. I'm going to have to go watch the video a second time. Really? That is not at all what I intended. I don't want to be wasting your time having to watch a video a second time. Have the lecture trivia questions handy while you're watching, okay? That would be yet another good advice. So late policy, everything is due at 11:59, typically on a Sunday, except for the last day of the semester, because it ends on a Friday. Okay. I usually start grading the following morning. I have a morning class, so it may be mid-afternoon before I'm finished grading. There's a penalty of 5 points per day. So if you turn in a perfect paper, but you were 4 days late, well, 4 times 5 is 20, so the most you can make is an 80. Okay. Now, if you submit something and I scribble on it and give it back to you on Monday, and you submit it on Monday, well, then I'm considering that, 1 day late. Okay, cool. So my grading history, this is not necessarily the grading history for this one class. This is kind of me overall. And the point of showing this is I'm not an easy A kind of professor for everyone, passes with flying colors. I'm not a hard as nails either where everyone, struggles and flunks. Now, I will tell you the F's over here on the right-hand side, that isn't because, oh, the material's tough and I couldn't understand it. No, that's not it. These are people who signed up for the course and then just abandoned it. And so, they quit turning stuff in. And so I had no choice but to give them an F. Outside of that, that's a halfway decent bell curve in my way of thinking. Most people make a B in my courses. Okay, I mentioned feedback. I'm really, really keen on this feedback idea. That you submit a document, I scribble on it, give it back to you, and you get to go, oh, and then you can submit it again. I can scribble on it again. I had one student one semester did this like 4 or 5 times. I mean, it got to the point of diminishing returns as far as being able to get any additional, grade or score out of the thing, but they actually learned something. And, hey, I kind of admire that. Okay. So things to look out for. Typically, there's 2 different ways you're going to get grading feedback. In a typical class, you'd have the personal feedback that only you can see, and then some overall grade feedback in a discussion forum, which I'm probably not going to do in an independent study. So I really want you to be paying attention to the notes I leave you, so much so that I've been known to put in some what I call an Easter egg. I'll put in your document a note that says, if you respond by midnight tonight with this code, I'll give you an extra 5 points on the next quiz. You think maybe I'm serious about you reading feedback? Okay, just saying. So watch your email immediately after the due date during the grading period, maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon, because, you think this is, not a common thing, but you'd be surprised. I'll sit down Monday and I'm grading assignment 2 and I bring up your assignment 2 and I go, what the heck is this? Yeah, it's obviously assignment 2 for some other course that you're taking. So I just mark you with a 0 and then send you a Canvas email that says, hey, I don't know what the heck this is, but it ain't assignment 2 for this class. So, but if you're gone, you're on a fishing trip for the rest of the week, man, that's going to hurt, right? So really, you need to be watching your email by, I don't know, late afternoon on Monday. And don't plagiarize or cheat because that'll just annoy me. So how do you read feedback? If you're submitting a Word document, which practically everything is a Word document, Canvas has this thing called a document viewer, and it can handle Word documents fairly well. And so there's some thing called grade feedback and annotation feedback, and we'll talk about that. If you're submitting something else, which is not really the case, you might have to click on attachments. So let me just go through this. So if you're looking at the grade book, this over here on the right-hand side, that's what's called the grade feedback. And typically it's going to be something like, great job, something short. Or most likely, if you're a late kind of person, it's going to be, okay, you made a 85, but you're minus, 1 day late. And so 1 times 5 is, the math. Here's what's called the annotation feedback. If you click here, you get to see like a miniature version of what you submitted. And off on the side is my annotations. I'll say, oops, you forgot this. Or wait, don't you remember you're supposed to put the breakpoint after the line? That kind of stuff, giving you some suggestions and some hints on how to do better. Hopefully the comments will be, constructive enough for you to go, oh, okay, hang on, let me go redo this, and you resubmit it a second time. Okay, so this is where the Easter eggs are going to be. This is where you're going to get some sort of a note that says, if you respond to this, you're going to get extra 5 points. Okay, a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Emmett Gray. I worked out at Fort Hood. I wasn't in the Army. I just worked for them. I'm a software author, programmer. I've written hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds, plural, applications in my time. I have a strange educational background. I have degrees in mathematics and engineering, plus computers. But I'm not a PhD, so you can't call me Dr. Gray. I got a gazillion Microsoft and CompTIA certifications, so you might want to ask me about that. And I've been teaching here at the university for about 15 years. So I'm an adjunct professor, which means I work part-time. This is probably a good place to stop for the 15-minute doggone it. See you in part 3.